Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name, as Brian says, is Andrew Millar from the University of Dundee. I'm head of web services. I've been in post for about 18, 20 months now, but I've been at the university for 14 years. So I've been through a huge period of time at the university where we've gone through a lot of change. And if you've been at IWMW for any number of years, or if you've been at the institution for any number of years, you've probably been through a huge amount of change as well. So just to get the kind of lie of the land, just by a show of hands up, whose institution has been through financial difficulty or is in financial difficulty just now?
So they claim.
So they claim. Hands up if your institution has been restructured in the last 5 years.
How many times?
We're not offering prizes for the number of times you've been restructured. Your institution has been rebranded in the last 5 years. Yeah, we're getting a common theme here. Thinking about your department, has your department been restructured in the last 5 years? Yeah, we're getting the kind of idea of how these things are going to go. You've moved departments in the last 5 years, so you've shifted departments from one place to another. Yeah. You've lost friends. There are people here, Brian, Claire, who have had to move on because of the changes that have been happening in higher education. And I know from our situation in Dundee, I've lost friends and colleagues because of restructuring, because of change. But what I kind of want to say today is well done to all of you who have arrived and who are here. You're the survivors. Well done. Great. Fantastic. But there's a different way of looking at this. You can look at all the change in a negative way, and the kind of stuff that Bonnie's been saying has been kind of alluding to this. But actually, the people who are here today were also the benefactors of the change as well. Now, that's not a popular thing to say. It's not an easy thing to say, especially when you've lost friends and colleagues because of the changes that you've gone through. A couple of years ago at IWMW, there was a man from Precedent came and he spoke, a guy called Rob Van Tol. And one of the things he said stuck with me, and it was this: to bring about change, have a good crisis and don't waste it. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it's something that stuck in my head when Rob was talking about it. And in terms of all those things that we talked about, the things we put our hands up for, Dundee's had all of them. We've had big deficit budgets, we've had voluntary severance packages, we've had restructures, we've had rebrands, we've had all these kind of things. We're having a crisis, but we're trying to make the most of it. And what I want to do this afternoon is try and tell you a little bit about how Dundee's tried to capitalise on that and try to make the most of that situation. Because the thing is, out of great trial comes great opportunity. Now, I don't know how you look at that kind of statement. You might look at it like that and fall about laughing and thinking that's complete rubbish. But there's actually a great opportunity we can have, because what it does is it creates a culture of change. And that's a culture of change that you can grab hold of and you can use to your benefit. And that's what we've tried to do at Dundee. And I'm going to try and explain a little bit about that. This was our organisational structure pre-2015, okay? We had these 4 massive colleges, and they were put in place to try and devolve some of the resources and the money and the talent out to them where they could be used to best effort. The problem is, when you do that, you start to lose control. This is how web looked pre-2015. We were what could be termed feral when it came to web. If you had a loud voice, if you were a well-respected institution, you could do whatever you wanted, and it didn't really matter whether the professionals were saying that's the way to do it or not. Hands up if that's the way it is in your institution as well. It's a common story. One of the things, the remit for web sat within IT. Now, I could go around this audience and I could ask you all where you sit within your organisation. And some of you will sit within IT, some of you will sit within marketing, some of you will sit in corporate comms. And wherever you sit, it might work for you. For us, IT did not work, because IT was not interested in the day-to-day business of web. So one of the things the university did, and is one of the things that has helped us most, is transition the remit to marketing. But we didn't have a marketing department. For an institution not to have a centralised marketing function is just crazy. But we had no centralised marketing department. However, change happened. 2015, this is what happened. We ripped out an entire level of management. Entire level from our structure, brought things up, restructured our schools, went from 15 schools down to 9 schools, and we made a very subtle change in how we called our support services. We changed them from support services to professional services to try and get across the message that we actually know what we're doing. Doesn't sometimes seem like that, but actually we know what we're doing, and we spend our days looking at this kind of stuff and trying to understand it and trying to help these people. As I say, the remit moved from IT into external relations, and external relations was kind of reborn, and here's what they did. They transitioned all the web people and all the creative people and all the communications people into a single directorate. So marketing now had control over web and creative services and corporate comms. Corporate comms being press and social and those kind of areas. For the first time, the university had control of the 3 major communication channels, something that hadn't happened in the university before. What they also did was they transitioned the departments that were responsible for external communications, so student recruitment, events, so things like graduation, things like the big public engagement events, and the alumni, they transitioned them into the central directorate, the external relations directorate. So we not only had control over the channels, we had control over the departments that sent the messages out as well. Maybe control is the wrong word, but we were able to work with these people. This was really good for us, and it did 2 things for us that changed the way we do web. Now, these changes would never have happened had we not been going through a crisis. Okay, it's important to remember that. They gave us a voice, and this has been brilliant. Our director now sits on the executive group, which is the senior level management within Dundee. So you've got the principal, you've got the vice principals, you've got the university secretary, and you've got our director, having a voice at a senior level. But it also gave us direction. For the first time, they said, your primary remit is to look at student recruitment, to look at income generation and try to get those things sorted out. And it allowed us to push back on a whole load of stuff. We would never have been able to do that had we not been going through a crisis. So we were able to capitalise that and move on. So as I said, we had this web infrastructure, and we were feral, and we were doing everything in different ways and different patterns and different CMSs, and it was just a bit of a mess. So we pulled everybody together into a single team. The problem with that was we were a team by name only. And we were all involved in our own little projects. So we restructured again. And I'm one of those evil people that did a restructure. Okay, it's forced upon me, but it seems to be working for us. And this is what we did. We split the team up into, we didn't split the team, we put people into 5 different areas. Content, design, development, support, and user experience. For the first time, we had control over the entire life cycle of web. And we were able to start looking at changes about how we do things, rather than working between different departments like IT, who really weren't interested in web and these different things. So we pulled together all these different people into web services. But to be honest, that's the easy bit. Something that a lot of you will not have control over, but that's the easy bit. If we simply deliver a new website, we'll have failed in our task. We need to change the culture of how we do web within our institution. If we're going to be successful at all, that has to be our primary focus. There's 2 types of culture. There's the internal culture within your team. This cannot just be my responsibility to change the culture of the team. It's the entire team's responsibility to try and change that culture. And it's a very difficult thing to do sometimes. There's things that I can do about making it a safe environment. There's things I can do about making it an environment where people can flourish and can move on and have the chances to do things, but we also need people to engage with it as well. This takes years. We're about a year into this change just now, and we're still, some days you wake up and you think, we are getting this, yes. And other days you wake up and you think, oh my word, we've just gone back a year. But these changes take a long time, and they take a long time to progress through. But also external culture. The external culture, the people in the university, round about who you're trying to work with. This takes years as well, but the thing we've got in our favour is we're having a crisis. People are actively looking for change, they're actively looking for answers, they're actively looking for ways out of the problems. So, I was asked 6 months into the role to come to the University Management Group, which includes that executive group, the deans, the school managers, and the directors of service, the senior level people in just about every place in the university, and present to them what we needed to do with web. So here's what I did. I scared them with data. If you are not in control of your analytics, if you're not delving into your analytics, can I please make a plea to you, go and look at your analytics, because there is wonderful stuff in it that will help you make changes and will help you move changes forward. I went into that meeting and here's what I said to them. We have 537,000 items being indexed by Google currently across the dundee.ac.uk domain. If I was to put just one person on that to look at every item for just 10 minutes and decide whether it's relevant or not, it's going to take us 53 years. So doing that is not really an option, and the university is not going to dedicate somebody for 53 years just to go through every little bit. What's more concerning is that only 36,000 items actually reside on the main corporate website. I have no clue where all those other things are and what they're doing. From a security, from a compliance perspective, that is scary, because anything could be happening out there and we don't know. Somebody then put up their hand in that meeting, and if you get asked this question, you know you're onto a good thing. He put up his hand and he says, how can we help you to solve this problem? Could have kissed the guy. I didn't. Wonderful question to have. So following on from that, we produced this graph. Now, if you like graphs, and I like graphs, and Paul's going to disagree with this, but Excel is just a wonderful, wonderful tool. Paul and I have had disagreements about this, but Excel is a wonderful tool. And here's the graph that we produced. We went into Google Analytics and we took all the page views for a year and we sorted them into little silos as to where the information was, generally departments. And then we sorted them by the number of page views. And we got this wonderful long tail graph. This graph will change the world. I'm quite convinced of it. The blue line is the external views.
That is a classic graph as a zip curve. That is the standard of website. Am I preempting your next slide here?
You might be, yes. It's a long tail graph. Jerry McGovern, when he talks about his top tasks, this is a kind of long tail graph. But this is done in terms of page views. I then did a rather naughty thing in the meeting. I pointed out where all the school sites were on the graph. Some people were rightly pleased. Life sciences, medicine, DJ Carr, Duncan Johnston, they were quite happy because they were at the top end. Social sciences weren't terribly happy because they were down at the bottom end. I said, well, we need a new website. No. That big spike at the start, that's our course pages. 500,000 of them are your courses. Guess where you're spending your time? Those top 10 sections account for 73% of our traffic. We spend way too much time on the right-hand side of that graph and not dealing with the things on the left-hand side of the graph. Now, page views are not always an accurate measurement of quality, I know that, but in terms of affecting change, this is a wonderful graph. And it gets people thinking. So I presented this to them, and they started to engage, and we've had quite a good time changing our course pages and starting to upgrade our course pages, and actually getting more engagement from them, getting more bang for our buck. But it soon got to the stage where they weren't really quite happy with the things that we were saying. They were getting kind of fed up with the things that we were saying, and they were asking us to do different things, and we kind of had to change the way we do things, change the way we talk to them. We had to make it something about something that they cared about. And this is where we had a bit of a fundamental change in how we do things. We as a community have talked long and hard about a digital-first approach. I'm going to say something very unpopular, and all the consultants in the room can close their ears just now. Academics don't care. I've said it. You can chuck me out later on. Academics don't really care about digital first. They don't care how it happens. They have their own set of things they're trying to accomplish, and they need to try and get on with it. So we changed the way we started to talk about things, and we started to talk about customer first, trying to understand what it is the customer is wanting. The problem with talking about a digital first approach is that you sometimes assume that there's a digital answer to the question. And the problem is digital might not be the answer to every question. It'll be the answer to part of the question, I'm quite sure, but in terms of that entire package, in terms of that entire problem, it's not going to be the answer to every single question. So we started to change how we were talking to them, and we started to ask them this: what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And this is a great question to ask people, because they'll come at you and say, our website's not working for us. That's a problem. Okay, what do you want? We need a new website. No. That's not a problem. That's a solution to a problem. But we don't know what the problem is yet. What is the problem you're trying to solve? Well, my course is not recruiting. Now we have a common language that we can both come at and suggest different things. We can understand the problem. We can say, well, why are you not recruiting? Is it because the market's no longer there? Is it because you're not getting your message across to the students? How is it not working for us? What we can then do is start to create a full stack solution. So you remember how we've restructured within marketing? We have control over the big different channels. So we can create a full stack solution. We can do a bit of web, we can do a bit of social, we can do a bit of print, we can do a coordinated thing that brings everything together, and we can then start to track by campaign rather than by channel. Because we can look at page views and say, well, that's very popular, that's not very popular, but unless we know that full journey, that full story, we're not getting the entire picture. So this is starting to work for small problems. And it's starting to work for little things. And we are seeing huge changes in Dundee. So we're top 10 in the UK in terms of the National Student Survey. We've been named Scottish University of the Year 2 years in a row. That's been unprecedented. I don't think it's happened before. We're first in Scotland for the International Student Barometer. Our complete university guide rankings are going in the right direction. We're a world top 200 institution, and we just got TEF Gold. So things are happening. Has all this happened because of web? No. Has this happened because of external relations? No. It's happened because the university's been in a crisis, and it started to look seriously and address the problems that it's facing. So it's starting to work for small problems, but we needed to go bigger. And we needed to really tackle the big things. And we really needed investment to be able to do that. So we were offered the chance to put in an investment bid, and we were then called before the University Management Group again to explain why we wanted this money. And I have quite a few friends in different schools, and I'd heard that they were starting to talk in various different school committees that the web is broken. That's what they were saying. So I stood up in this management group and said, I know you guys are saying the web is broken. Here's what I have to say to you. I agree. What you don't realise is that the web is broken in 3 different ways. It's broken in terms of its content, it's broken in terms of its design, and it's broken in terms of its technology. We can't just look at one of these things to solve the big problem. We need to tackle all 3 of them if we're going to be successful. We have lots of content. We don't starve in terms of our content. We have lots of people wanting to give us content. But as Pete will testify at the back, the content's not always that great. And you might be saying the same thing as well. Our design is no longer cutting it. We've hacked it, and we've changed it, and we've tweaked it, and we've rebranded it. But in terms of actually solving the core problems, we need to do a complete remake of this design. Our infrastructure is no longer fit for purpose. It's running on machines that were really in danger of falling to bits. And there were times when the server fell over and we weren't sure whether we could get it back again. And it was one of the main servers. And we'd have been stuck. We managed to get bits and pieces done, but the infrastructure that runs it is not going to be capable of doing it for much longer. We benchmarked our homepage. And this is, if you're trying to get buy-in, benchmark your homepage from different locations. China's a key market for us. It's probably a key market for a lot of you. And our homepage is taking about 18 seconds to load. And we said, well, we could chuck a bit of technology at this in terms of putting a CDN on it to try and make the images and stuff load faster, but it's not making that much of a difference. And you can quote Nielsen Norman and all these different people saying that, the first couple of seconds are the most important. If ours is taking 10 seconds to load, it's not really cutting the mustard. What I really wanted them to understand was how we got here. And this next picture is a corker, right? It's brilliant because it completely explains how we've built our website. We started off as a little bungalow in '97, and we've restructured, and we've extended, and we've changed, and we've modified, and we've repainted, and whatever else. And now it's at the stage where it's kind of like a Tetris house. I don't really want to touch it because I don't know what's going to happen if I touch this bit and then it's going to all fall down. That's how we've built our website. That's how you've treated the website. It's everybody else's problem except mine. And it is my problem. I'm head of web services, so it is my problem. But in terms of you academics, you look at the website, you say it's not working for us, it's your fault, it's your problem. And we go, well, we've been asking you for content. We've been asking you for images. Why have you not been giving it to us? And we have this conversation, this kind of pointing fingers type of thing. We've put our content in silos. And the problem with silos is you then need to try and understand where on earth in the university hierarchy things sit before you can understand where on earth you can get the answer to your question. This is what we've done with our silos. What I really wanted the university to understand is that the strength of Dundee, the stuff that people are interested in, is not our policies, it's not our procedures, it's not our hierarchy. It's our teaching, it's our research, and it's our people. And that's what we're failing to deliver just now. So, easy problem to solve, right? No. Because they'll all go, well, we need a new website. That's not going to solve the problem. If I deliver to you a new website, I will have failed in my challenge to get the web sorted for the University of Dundee. It's not easy because we have 25 different types of desktop browser alone coming to the site. We've got 5,500 different types of mobile device, each with different sizes of resolution and screen size and capabilities. We've got over 230 different countries and territories coming, all with different cultural norms. So the UI principles that work in the West, they don't work in China, or they're different in China. We've got apps starting to come up. Millennials that are entering the job market are saying, well, we want to interact with the virtual environment through apps, and we want that to affect the physical environment, and things are constantly changing. And that's just what we know about already, and that's kind of what we're sure about already. There's things like Alexa that's coming. Has anybody got an Alexa device? I am surprised. I have an Alexa device. Some people have an Alexa device. Suddenly people are no longer touching browsers to access information. They're no longer physically touching devices. And these are things that we need to think about as a community. How do we get our information out into some of these devices so that people can discover them? These may fail. My Alexa device sits in a box now and I never look at it because it kept on activating every time the TV was on. It just annoyed me because she could never figure out what the TV was saying. Did anybody hear the story about the doll's house in Alexa? A little girl in America went up to the Alexa device and said, I want a new doll's house. And it went and ordered it for her and appeared the next morning. That was really funny until it was picked up by the local news. And they said the exact same phrase. And all the Alexa devices across the country started ordering doll's houses. Really funny, but there are big issues that we need to consider. We're starting to dabble in VR. Now, in terms of us taking Dundee to the world, VR is a wonderful thing. It allows us to do some immersive stuff that really gives people a taste of where Dundee is and what Dundee's got to offer. Wearable technology. Direct links between the physical and virtual worlds. And there's real potential for things to have great changes here. There's ethical questions as well. Is it ethical if you know a student is 5 minutes late for their lecture and they're still in the union to ping them a message to say you should really be in your lecture? Probably not. Is it ethical to say we'll have a coffee ready for you when you arrive at your meeting? All the academics said yes, absolutely, we would love that. There are big ethical questions about what we want to do. Artificial intelligence, starting to work with chatbots. You can start to order plane tickets, you can start to order pizza, you can start to do lots of things by interacting with a chatbot on the other end. But how do we get that information to us? How is our information stored? What are we doing? So, a new CMS is not going to solve this problem by itself. We can put a new CMS in, we can put new infrastructure in, we can put all this different technology in. It's not going to solve the problem by itself. It's time for a culture change. And this is what Dundee is starting to realise. And Dundee is starting to realise, not just in terms of web, but in terms of the whole business of higher education, that we need to change the culture around about how we do things. Web is not going to solve these problems by itself. Web will solve these problems by working with people and directorates and institutions both within the university and out with the university to address the problems that we're problems we're seeing and coming up with solutions. So, how are we going to do that? We've now got the people in place, we've now got the structure in place, we've now got the voice at the higher level, we've now got people understanding part of the problem. We need to rip out and replace everything we've got. One of the biggest problems we have, and Bonnie kind of alluded to it, was legacy websites. People thinking, this is my website. You cannot touch my website. This is my content. It's not your content, it's not your website. It's something that the university is projecting to the outside world that we need to try and make the best possible use of. So we're looking to try and rip out and replace everything, and building from the ground up. One of the key responsibilities, one of the things I forgot to say is that restructure of the university, of the web services team. A manager was appointed over each of those different areas, and their specific responsibility was to go out and to look at the best practice in the industry. It used to be that the web person did everything: content, design, development, information architecture, they did everything. But they're now niche industries. And we can see from the talks that we have here that they are different things and different people have interest in different things. So each of those managers is responsible for looking at the best practice and trying to bring that into the University of Dundee. So we're going to rip it out and we're going to rebuild it. And we're going to rebuild it in a fashion that means that people can get access to the information that they want. That it's not siloed, that you don't need to understand the structure of the university. You don't need to understand that student funding sits within student services, that sits within professional services, that nobody cares. They just want access to information that's going to help them. There are people who are needing help, there are people who are desperate for help, and they can't find it because we can't get things ordered in the way we need to do it. So we're going to rip out and build from the ground up. A CMS, am I over my time or? No, sorry. I saw Brian look at his arm. It's always worrying. A CMS is not going to change this. It's going to help, it's going to do a little bit, but it's not going to change this. And we don't know in the future where things are going to go. We don't know what the end point is for our content. We don't know which systems we're going to need to pull in. The university is spending a heck of a lot of money ripping out all their business systems and replacing them as well. So we don't know what's going to come in from different places. The CMS, I'm going to stick my neck out here. The time of the CMS is heading towards an end, I think. And we need to start looking at platforms that are agnostic of the endpoint, because we don't know where they're going to end up. Whether it's going to be on the web, whether it's going to be on a wristwatch, whether it's going to be on a TV screen, whether it's going to be on, a big massive TV screen in the gym or wherever else. We need to start getting away from CMSs and start thinking about content management systems. Things that manage our content and things that can push them out to wherever we need to put them. Because we don't know where the data is going to end up. So, have we been successful? We've got the structure, we've got the voice at the top, we've got the people in place, and we just heard last week that we've got the money that we need to do it. So, come back next year, and we'll find out. I may not be here next year. I may be under a rock someplace, but we'll see where we are next year. Thank you very much.